you know, when you make tea, right? Do you guys get tap water and put in the kettle and make your tea? Because you know when everyone's worried about the water not being clean, it's got fluorine and all of that stuff in it. Some people are going to be like, I've got a filter in it, so you got a filter that goes into your tap water, and then you get the water, and you think it's clean. Or do you do what I do, which is put water that you buy and then put it in the kettle, and then you boil that, and then you drink that. And no matter what we do to be healthy and to keep away from, you know, Zamal, this just went and then came back. Oh, okay. I have to wait for it to.
It will just keep like that.
Right, no problem, no problem. I think I clicked it. Yeah, so I was saying, like, how do you drink tea from bottled water, filtered water, or you just turn the water from your tap and put it in a kettle and boil it and thinking it's clean? What's funny about that, for us fanatics that, well, I wouldn't say I'm a fanatic, but for people who are consciously trying to be healthy and, do you know what I mean? Like drink proper water and eat properly and so on and so forth. What's funny about that is you still have a shower and you still have a bath in the same water that you're porous and it still goes into your pores. So I know the clever people are going to be like, yeah, I have a filter that goes into my tank that supplies all the water to me, whether it's in the kitchen or in the bathroom. Yeah, so I find that interesting because it's like a lot of work now to buy the water, to put it in the kettle, to have the cup of tea. So I rarely have tea now, but because I'm trying to recover, it's actually really nice. This is ginger and mint. Nice combination. Okay, I was just like waiting for more people to join, but it looks like we've got quite a lot of you joining already, so we can get straight into your questions. The first question is from Nathan Gilbert. The Elohim, do they have other subspecies that don't call themselves as the Elohim? And do they have other species that how to evolve when the first Africans evolved on their other planetary systems? Your question is a little bit confusing at the end part, but just to help you out, when we say Elohim, right, it's not a specific person. It's a description of a group of people, right? So when you say the Elohim, like that's like a generalization or group of people. So as you know, the I am at the end of the word is a yod and a meme in the Hebrew, which makes it plural from a Elo, which is the E-L-O-H without the I and the M. It's spelled in many ways. It's phonetically spelled this way, E-L-O-H-I-M, or you can spell it E-L-O-H-E-E-M, because remember the vowels are interchangeable. So this is why in wu-sabat we're very specific about language. And although we have our own language that we're learning and speaking, which was the first language on the planet brought down here to us by our ancestors from Sirius and Orion star constellations, even though we speak our own language, we also learn all the other languages because they stem from that language. So when we're reading the scriptures, we don't just read it in the English, Inglesi, as we used to say. We actually read it in, it depends on what book and what scripture. So if you're talking about the New Testament, then we're going to look at the Greek, which ultimately comes from the Latin and comes from the Arabic anyway. If we're reading the Quran, then it's going to be the Arabic. If it's the Old Testament, it's going to be the Hebrew. But so when you're looking at that word in the Hebrew, I'm going to actually see if I can pull it up. Yeah, in the Hebrew, Elo is a singular, Elohim is a plural, and El will be one that's over the group of beings. So I'm just going into blueletterbible.com, and I'm just going to go to Genesis 1:1, which is going to be the first time I think you come across. There we go. Tools. Right, yeah. Sorry, have I gone to the right place? Wrong one. Okay, here we go. In Genesis 1:1, where it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. If you look at the Strong's number, H430, where that word is translated as Elohim, if you click on the actual, let me show you. You see. Yeah. So I'm going to just zoom it back out and you can look at it properly again. So I showed you, you got it? Cool. So yeah, that word God is translated as Elohim, but when you click on that Strong's number to go more into the detail of the word, because what the Strong's numbers do, they give you a breakdown of an explanation of the word and how many times you will find that word in the entire book. So it occurs 2,600 times in 2,246 verses. All right, and then it starts to explain to you and go into the details, like what the word actually, what is it saying, what is it meaning, and you will see that it's talking about a group of beings, these beings. So to go back to your question, when you say in the Elohim, do they have other subspecies? They're already different species. And the question is, who are you talking about? Because they have names, they're actually people. So people in the sense of they're beings, entities, right? So when, yeah, so you say, when you say seraphim, cherubim, or you say malevolent and benevolent beings, that's talking about the different species of extraterrestrials. And then you take it back to where that story's been taken from the Sumerian tablets. That's where you get into words like Anunnaki, because these are beings that Anu sent to the planet Ki, and they came in groups of 50 because only 50 passengers could fit on the craft. All right, so the second part where it got confusing, you were saying how to evolve when the first Africans evolved on their other planetary system. That bit's confusing. How do they have other species that, how to evolve when the first Africans evolved on their other planetary? Yeah, that's confusing. What we're saying is that you have different types of extraterrestrials from different star systems. The first ones in anywhere you go, whether it's in the different star systems or on the planet, to have the oldest DNA or evolution would be our ancestors. So the same way on the planet, although you have beings that evolved on the planet, different what we call root races that come, that they always had to take something that was already here, even when they were genetically breeding different beings. Like when Anunnaki came, they still had to take the DNA of the beings that already were here, which would be the Pataites, who are our ancestors, who go back to the beings from Sirius and Orion. But then you got other beings that evolved in the different star systems or cosmos, and they still came from the original beings, which would be the 9 ether beings. We say 9 ether because when you get outside of the planet and start to go into the different star systems and start going into, well, how did all the universes and everything come together, you're going to start dealing with when things were in a gaseous form, right? And 9 ether is the combination of all existing conscience and conscious gases put together. That's 9 ether. So then our ancestors would have evolved from them. And you can read all about this in the first chapter of the Holy Tablets, how you had the supreme beings coming out of the green light, and then you had the sub-supreme beings, or the light that came out of the green light, which was the amber light. And then from that you get these, what you call the 6 ether beings, okay? And then from the, so you got 9 ether, 6 ether comes out of 9 ether, then you got ghost that comes out of 6 ether. And then when you manifest that on the planet, the Africans or the Negroes will be the 9 ether, and then from them will come your 6 ether Dravidians, okay? And then from the Dravidian will come your ghost, which will be your Caucasian. You see, so as above, so below. So when you're saying about the Africans evolved on their other planetary system, what we're saying is that it's the same thing that happened on this planet that happened in other planets or other star systems. So it's the same thing. So you have root races on the planet, and then from the root races, you get mixtures or sub-races that are mixed between the root races to produce your different hybrids. Then you get all types of hybrids that are coming from the watered down species of the original species. I trust that answers your question. All right, that's for you, Nathan Gilbert. And then the second question is Kevin Chambers. They're trying to boycott my boy Kanye West. I don't think he lied once and he still made 33 million. Yeah, obviously, I heard they've cancelled the whole wireless concert because they didn't want him to come. Which is so actually funny. I don't want to go into it because you know who runs the media and how you get flagged and so on and so forth, right? But it's all about his comments about, you know what I mean? They say he's anti-Semitic and all of that. The reality is funny because when you start to look at the people that are claiming to be who they're claiming to be are not even the originals. And yeah, it's all distortion. It's kind of funny. It's like if you go to Egypt today and you got people that are calling themselves Arabs, but they're not really the original Arabs. And if you go into the study of that, you'll find out that the original Arabs would be by way of the Nagarus, who came by way of Hagar. Okay, so Hagar being one of the wives of Abraham, all right? She was an Egyptian, and she had a son called Ishmael, right? So Ishmael would be the original, and then you follow that line, it goes into the tribe of Kedar, and then, you know, Muhammad coming from that tribe as well. So you got the originals, and then you have people that are really Saudis, and they come from like mainly Europeans, from, you know, Phoenicians, Turkish. They then mixed in and produce hybrids who then now ran away Fatima and Ali and the original caliphs to the land, and then put Abu Bakr and all the what we refer to as the red desert Arabs in place, and now they claim that we can do that with pretty much everywhere you go on the planet, where you have indigenous people that are supplanted by others, and then they start to claim and pretend to be the ones. Do we have a call? All right. We have a live caller, Rahubat caller. What's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question for today, please?
My name is Kerith Muir from Jamaica, as usual. Greetings.
You're always the first one. I recognize your voice and your accent all the time now, but greetings. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Okay, go ahead. What's your question for today?
What are all the benefits of being a nine ether being that the people in the lower ethers don't have?
That's like saying, what's the benefits of you being the fastest, the best, the most intelligent? It's like, it's only a benefit if you're making use of that power. But
yes, but I mean it like this: like, does me being a nine ether being necessarily mean that I am far more intelligent than people who are eighth ether or so?
no, that's why I said it depends on whether or not you're utilizing it, or you're even, because you can be a nine ether being by way of your physical appearance, but like you say, what about the intelligence? What about, like, are you able to even utilize that? It's like, imagine you've got I don't know, let's say a container that has 9 liters. Then you go down, 8 liters, 7 liters, 6 liters, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? If you fill it to the brim, but you're not utilizing it, let's say it was water, but you're not drinking it. But someone who's only got up to 6 liters is drinking the water, then it's going to have an impact or an effect on them. So it's not having it, it's what you're doing with it, and is what you're doing with it what you should be doing with it. So just to have melanin or just to have 9 ether hair or whatever doesn't mean that you're utilizing the power of having nine ether. So it's not about that. It's about what you do with what you have. Yeah. So does that help?
Okay, so when you say if I'm utilizing it, so if I utilize my mind, would you, as a nine ether being, would you say that I am more intelligent than other groups of people, like in the
No,
lower
what I'm
ether?
saying is everyone had, you ever hear the phrase, a mind is a terrible thing to waste? Have you ever heard of that phrase?
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. So you could have the ability, but if you're not utilizing it, you're wasting it. So everyone has a mind, and it's to what capacity are you using your mind, and are you using your mind properly? Are you, like when you say intelligent, the outcome of what you're doing with your mind, is it productive? Is it intelligent? Is it bringing about the right outcome? So it's not about, like I said, just having it. It's like, okay, a lot of people breathe, right? We all breathe what you call air. But if you're not breathing properly and somebody else is, they're going to have more benefit than you, because breath is what keeps you alive. You follow me? So in the morning, for example, is something that we do naturally in wu-sabat, where we clean our nose. We clean it by way of using water, because breathing is so important for you to stay alive. So if you're not, if your life is determined by the amount of breaths that you take, you're not breathing properly. You have respiratory problems. Like I just said, I had a cold and now I'm a little bit bunged up, so I'm not getting as much air as somebody else who is not. So if breath keeps you alive and you don't know how to breathe, or if like sleeping in a particular way is going to enhance your life, but you don't know how to sleep, or the way the shoes you wear, or how your posture, there's certain things that we take for granted, but someone who has the knowledge of knowing that they should be sleeping on their right hand side as opposed to, or on their back as opposed to their left hand side, or on their front, they're gonna get the benefits of knowing that information, because sleeping on your left side is you're putting weight on your major organs, which can have an effect. You could even have a cardiac arrest, which it's like having a heart attack when you're asleep, because you're sleeping and putting pressure on your heart. And that's just information. So knowing the information, this is why we have a process called, so everybody has knowledge, right? But we have right knowledge, which means that knowledge can be wrong. If you are given wrong knowledge, then you're not operating on the right knowledge. And sometimes people think they're operating with right knowledge, but they're operating with wrong knowledge. So we're like, you need right knowledge, not just knowledge. You need right wisdom, not just wisdom. And that leads you to having right understanding, which ultimately leads you to having sound right reasoning, which then makes you able to, if you're following and learning, you can apply the wu-sabat knowledge that takes you from right knowledge, right wisdom, to right understanding, to right sound reasoning, which leads to sound right actions. And that's how you then exercise your intel, or the intel in your genes, or your intelligence. You see, so it's not about what you've got, it's about what you do with what you got. And if you do it properly based on right knowledge, then yeah, it will benefit you more than anyone else. You follow?
Okay, thank you. But I have one more question.
Go ahead.
So, dealing with RH negative people, since it is said that RH negative people are descendants of extraterrestrials, would mean that there are other worlds or other planets where these RH negative people originated from. So there are RH negative people on other planets, right?
You're questioning, right? There's distortion in what you're saying, and when you say it would seem, and like you're asking a question, but you're also giving your opinions with it. We have never said that.
There's a reason why I did that, because
Let me finish.
I'm wondering, some people said that they're not from other planets. Some people say that the RH negative gene is
What I'm saying
just
is
a
you
mutation.
started your question off by misinterpreting what we teach, meaning that we don't say that only RH negative people are extraterrestrials or not from here. Everyone is an extraterrestrial, in the sense that when you go to the makeup, or where they get the materials from to make up that person, it will come from a source that didn't originate from here, right? So the point about RH, we're saying that on the planet right now, when you look at blood types, there was a time where you only had positive blood types on the planet, right? And those were predominantly the Nagaru or Nagarnadu, or the Negroid race, who was here first. It's only when mixtures came in that you started to get different blood types, because of the blood that was now being mixed with other beings. So today you've got both. You have like, if you look at the main classifications of blood today, you have A, O, and then you have
B.
Yeah, and then you got the combination, then you got the RH factor, right, which is where you get the RH from. But the negative aspect came in when other extraterrestrials came here and mixed in with the Nagaru, who would have been predominantly positive, or there would have been positive blood types. And then when the negative came in, and then the mixtures started to produce your negatives, and then the RH factor, then that then tied into the bloodlines of some of the
Okay,
extraterrestrials. So what we're saying, just to clarify, we're not saying that there are people on the planet today that have RH negative blood types that are not like those came in because they were mixed, and it doesn't mean that because they have RH negative or let's say O negative that it means that they are part of that that bloodline, that they're all part of that bloodline. Is that clear?
Yes. So, okay. So, what I really want to get to now is that since they are descendants of extraterrestrials, I want to know if these other groups of RH negative people that exist on other planets, are they monitoring their descendants or family members that are here on Earth?
Yeah, definitely. All extraterrestrials, they have an interest in their offspring on the planet, but it's just that when we're dealing with, I was trying to find if I had a scroll to kind of give you more clarity. But when you're dealing with the Adamites, what we're saying is that their overlords who were looking out for them and helping them have now abandoned them or have left them because they realize that their time is up, and so they left. And I'm talking about the Pleiadians and the beings from Arcturus that basically were responsible for their graftation, and those are the ones that were providing and helping them, and they left. So when you say are they watching and monitoring them, they're not getting the assistance anymore from them. But we as descendants of the Natharu, we have ones that monitor us too. There are many crafts that are above the planet or in certain positions that the eye cannot see that are monitoring people on the planet. A lot of the technologies that we use today are provided by extraterrestrials, including, the internet and AI and so on, and they utilize these systems
And you
to
mean
monitor.
white people are descendants of the Adamites, right?
Not all white people, no. Some, but that's what I'm saying. Words like white people and black people are the problem because they're words that were concocted to create divisions and to create racism. But it's not about when you say black or white, because when you say, look, that's why even the master wrote in this 33 commandments of the Sabians, he wrote on the first few pages, he says, on the Adamites, I pa munbab yanun, do not want you to think that the use of Adamite means all and every so-called white person. It does not mean that. See, so
Okay, so I want to get at this. I'm not talking about the Adamites. I'm talking about all RH negative Europeans, people of European descent. They say a high percentage of RH negative people on this planet are from Europe. So those set of RH negative people on this planet, do they have star families that are watching over them?
I think I've answered that question already. It's not just them. I'm saying that every person on the planet has a descendancy to extraterrestrial, and all those extraterrestrials have some kind of okay. So, for example, some kind of vested interest in them. That's why they have sent many messengers or people to come, and some crafts they come and they're preparing to pick up their own people, or to, you hear a lot of the Pleiadians, a lot of people that like you're calling Caucasians or whatever that have visitation. They're visited by blonde haired, blue eyed beings or Pleiadians, and a lot of them get messages, or some of them are talking about they're coming to get them. So this is what I'm saying. You can't just single out a particular blood type. What we're saying is the blood types will tie you to your bloodline. You see, so your question is a bit convoluted in the sense of what is it you're really, what is the actual point or thing that you want to know? Like, what do you want to know?
Oh, it's just because they said that extraterrestrials are expected to return in the near future. So I was just curious about probably rapturing taking place. That's why I wanted to know
Yeah,
if
but the
they're
thing is,
looking after us.
when you say they said, that in wu-sabat, we want to know who's the they and what did they say? And when did they say it? And how did they say it? Because extraterrestrials have been here for for a long time. They've been here, they come and go, there's some coming, there's some going, and rapturing, like again, all these terms, where is this coming from? Because they rapture people or raptoid people all the time because you're dealing with reptilians that are taking people all the time. And what people are calling a rapture, are you getting that from a religious biblical perspective, or like what does that actually really mean? Because you've got extraterrestrials that come here and have been coming here and they're taking people for food. And people, so I don't understand when you say rapture, we explain about the fourth kind of movie that explains and shows you that, you know, they've come and taken people in 2003 in Nome, Alaska, and the movie is a depiction of that whole incident that actually took place. And they've been taking people for a very long time. It's just that now it's becoming more exposed about, you know, different types of beings, reptilians, etc., that like to eat human flesh, and missing people and abductions, and this is now becoming more and more common knowledge. So depending on the situation and what incident you're referring to, you know, they've been doing this for a long time, and they have been coming and going. It's just that some people, if they have a religious mindset, they may think that it hasn't already happened or it's not happening and it's going to happen. And yes, you do have some situations that are yet to happen, but it doesn't apply to everyone, or necessarily does it relate to a particular, you know, biblical account. That's why I'm saying to you, you have to be very clear when you say they say. Who's the they and what are they saying and when did they say it and where's the evidence for what they are saying?
Okay.
We teach on wu-sabat and we know what we say very clearly. So that's why questions have to be very specific and clear.
Okay, I just want to close out by saying that I really do believe that RH negative people have a big intellect. So they should just
That's your belief.
stay true to their purpose and and just do good. I want to go now. Later.
Okay, but again, like I said, like just saying I believe that they are very intelligent or whatever the term was you use doesn't necessarily make that true, because a belief is your belief. But we have to look at who are we talking about and what are they doing that would render them to be intelligent in the way you put it. But yeah, so all right, let's move on since you left. Next question. Yeah, we were talking about Kanye being banned from coming into the UK. Again, that's really not a question, but yeah, I was just saying that I think it just goes to show you that when you make comments, you're supposed to have freedom of speech, but when you say certain things, you get censored or you get flagged. So do you have freedom of speech? Because the question will be, yeah, you have freedom of speech, but you can only say what we say you can say. Right, we have another call on the line. Rahubat, greetings. Caller, where you calling from? What's your name and what's your question, please?
Totally muted.
It looks like you're muted, caller. So can you unmute yourself and then let me know your name,
I'm
where
back
you're calling
again.
from, and what's your question? Rahubat.
This is Detrice. My question I would like for you to expand on is um, a woman in a menstrual cycle. I heard Dr. Duce, I think I'm saying his name correct. Duce York, because I listened to him and I listened to you guys. And I know he said that, it's for our cleansing. But I want to know, okay, we getting cleansed every 28 days, but why do we have to like have pain with it? Like, what is the pain about?
Okay, you don't have to have pain. There are many people that don't have pain, and the cleansing is because you regenerate as a divine feminine, a sacred feminine. That's something you do naturally, and unfortunately for us men, we don't have that. So it's a good thing. However, the reason people have pains is because they've forgotten or haven't been taught what they used to know, and that's like the deficiencies that you may have in terms of different minerals, in terms of your diet, in terms of what you've been doing for a while to get to the situation. It could even be, genetics as well. But however, most of it is to do with your lifestyle and what you may be deficient in, or the things that you're putting into your body, or it could even lead, it could be, there's so many different things, contraception and all kinds of things. So it's about you learning. This is why it's about you learning. I do that a lot. My mind moves so quickly. I start a sentence and I never finish it sometimes. But what you eat, what your diet is like, the energies and the things you surround yourself with. This is why when a group of women live together and they synchronize, you see that their menstrual cycle would synchronize, especially if you're, because it's energetic as well, right? So if you're amongst a group of people who are aligned and they're doing the right thing, then you will automatically kind of synchronize and align with them. But honestly, when you start to study your diet and the things you've been eating, and then you do a proper cleanse, you will find out that there are females who have mastered the art of taking herbs and knowing what to do, that they don't actually experience pain. So I would definitely say, look at our brother and people that are herbalists like LifeWave, and so that you will learn and get the right herbs, so that you can because it's going to be different for different females, because without knowing what you've been doing all these years, or what your lifestyle is like, or what your diet is like, or what you're deficient in, it's going to be hard to tell you that this is the cause why. I'm not saying maybe specifically to you, but this is the cause why you have cramps, or you have pain, or you have a hard time, and another person doesn't. Yeah, so I've actually known females who've been able to change that, and they don't have no pains. I mean, these are people I know physically, I mean personally. So you don't have to have pains.
Okay, thank you. I got another question. So, um, so I have a hard time with like bonding or connecting with other women. And so I always thought like, is something wrong with me? Like, why am I not having like a connection with women? Like, I don't want to say I've been cursed. I don't want to use the word curse, but I don't I don't know if it's bad luck. Like, is it something that happened in my prior life or my ancestors that maybe caused me to go through this, of me like not able to connect with people? I hope that sound.
No, I follow you. That's such a great question, and I have to be very careful, because when men address questions to do with female stuff,
Yeah.
it's almost like females should address the questions to the females. But having said that, you're not the first person that has expressed that, and I've spoken to many different females who share that same thing. The reality is that there has been a concentrated effort on the female to not come together and get along, because when you do, it's actually the right time, and is your time, is the sacred feminine time. But the thing is, not everyone recognizes or knows or even understand what that actually means. That's why we encourage people to read the Gospel of the Anun on the sacred feminine, because that will start to answer the question. And by being in the sisterhood, there are many things that are discussed and between the females to help them come together. The fact of, for example, the feline order is a part of bringing the females together, and this is why it's so important to come close and be a part of these orders, so that you can get these sacred secrets or information to help you with things like that, because you learn about bonding together and how to do it. Generally in the West, you hear things like cat fights and women kind of not generally being able to get along, and it's actually quite sad. And but there are things in wu-sabat to help you with that, and it's all a matter of reprogramming what you've been taught to be like in the West. Generally, I want to share something. I'm trying to think of how to say it without. So, women. Okay. So, for example, women tend to compete a lot. They tend to be basically, and this is a mentality of the Western system, where not just women, but they teach everybody to be in competition and against each other. And the nature of a female in terms of that competitiveness, it's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be you harmonizing and coming together. So people always trying to do each other, or yeah. There are certain things that I would not be able to go into, and I would encourage you to join some of the feminine classes. You know, the sister Nuntat, she does a lot of teachings, and you know, just I don't know where
She
you.
put her classes on Telegram.
She does, yeah. You may want to
Okay.
try and connect with her, and on a one-to-one as well. But where are you based? What location?
In the States, in Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah, see if you can connect with her, and she will be able to guide you a little bit more, because it's not supposed to be that way. Like, even
Yeah, I hate it.
you know, we everything's back to front, and that's why we're trying to, by way of wu-sabat, bring everyone together, because you are supposed to be in harmony and united, and you can do it if you learn to subdue some of the things that we've been programmed with to keep us apart. And it's the same for the brothers as well, for the men, you know. But yeah, this question keeps coming up in terms of, to me, about females, and I think the females need to stand when they start teaching or being more prominent. You know, they may be able to address a lot more questions from the females. But I hope I helped you in some way.
Thank you. Just one small question.
Go ahead.
Do Dr. York, do he have kid books? Like something my daughter can read, my 8-year-old daughter?
Yes. We have not just Dr. York's book, but you also have like the sisters. This is what I'm saying about them being the nurturers, the holder of the mitochondrial DNA, the producer of our next generation. You have like temple babies, Okay, that's one of our sisters. I've just literally just said it, and my brothers just brought this down. Right, Temple Babies. So these are some of their products. So they have a website, templebabies.com. They produce
Okay.
all kind of like kids books, videos, animations that cover so many different aspects. This is one called the Lahaj Kids, and they've got worksheets, books. Yeah, so they have many books to help children, and we need more people that are in wu-sabat to produce. We've got to reproduce everything, like rewrite all the music, all the videos, all the movies, all the children programs. We got to literally transform all that six ether things that we're used to 9 ether. So yeah, but we do have a selection of children's books.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, back to the. Oh, you've got it.
Oh, no, they kept saying the sound was out, but it's better.
The sound on.
It kept dropping and coming there.
Oh, okay.
But it's fixed.
All right. So, oh man. Okay. Hold that thought. Saket Ra, thanks for your donation, but I'm just gonna take this live call and then come back to your question. All right. Greetings, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello?
And what's your question? Greetings, Rahubat.
Greetings, Rahubat.
Rahubat.
Rahubat. Thank you for everything. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for all the information and knowledge you've given to me personally and to the world. And there's nothing, we could repay to you guys. Like, thank you for opening my mind. I just have to let you know that they do allow me to do my own research.
Thank
and finding
you.
out the truth on my own time.
Yeah.
And I can't.
All praise due
Sorry?
to Partner Babyanun. I was just going to say that. Thank you. But go ahead.
Thank you to Potter Babyanun as well. Yes, I had a question. I wanted to know. Oh, my name's Khalid too, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I didn't know if I got to tell you.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
The question is, who built the halls of Amenti, and who is the dweller that Thoth speaks of in the Emerald Tablets?
Oh, great question. To be honest, I don't have the exact answer for you in terms of who it is, but you've given me some homework to do. So that's something I'm going to research on, and I'll come back next week with an answer for you. I mean, if you go on, like different people will say different things, but I wanna be sure, because I can't recall a scroll where the master teacher actually has given that information. But I'm gonna find out by speaking to other student teachers, and just make sure I give you, the right information. So the question is, who built the halls of Amenti, and what was the second part? I'm just writing.
Who is the dweller they speak of in the Emerald Tablets?
Who's the dweller that's spoken about in the Emerald Tablet? Okay. But we do know that obviously Thoth, or Tahuti, is the greatest teacher and the being that people came to study under. So you will find information saying that he's responsible for the halls of Amenti, and that they were built by him. But like I said, because I haven't got, I don't want to give you any misinformation, but it does stand to reason that it makes sense that him being that being that all masters came to study under, it will be 9 mind to reason that he built it. But I want to confirm that before I say it, and I'll come back next week, same time, and let you know.
That sounds perfect.
All right.
Is it okay if I just have one more side to that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can ask.
Thank you. they said that there's a ship under the Great Sphinx in Giza. I wanted to know, is it something that only someone at a teaching or a frequency can enter, or can it can see, or is it something that with the means of government technology they might have infiltrated this ship already, or is this something that is such at a high level that no one can see or enter this ship unless they are a student of the master?
Right, another great question. Like the previous one, where people say that Tahuti or Thoth is the dweller or the builder of the halls of Amenti. These are questions that we have to put to Pana Babyanun. But what I do know, he spoke already many years ago about certain places or certain points, especially where you have structures like the pyramids and buildings and things that are along a particular meridian line, or like the ley lines of the planet Earth, that their entrances, like for example to Agathar or to like different places, and a lot of the wars that are going on as well. Like he's also explained, like when they find certain things, so it may be a gateway, or when they find portals, or find like tablets and things that have been hidden for a long time. They sometimes, some of the wars are created to do a cover up, or to hide these things, or to stop people from knowing about it or going there. So as far as if there's a ship, I haven't heard that information. And again, this is a great question where we can try and get the answer. But I do know that they have found certain gateways or portals, or certain crafts and things that they hide from the public, so that's something again that I haven't got any confirmation directly from Partner Babylon or the master teacher, but it's something again we can take away and come back to you.
That sounds great. Okay, I just wanted to leave off with this last question. It's a question I've had for you guys for like a year. I've been waiting to call, and it just the first two were just very important to me. But my last question to you guys, I think a lot of people wonder this question, and I wanted to know, why is it everywhere in the world that Tahuti was had rulership? Southern America, the Americas, Giza. Why every single place is the exact lineage of these 12 tribes of Israel, the original people of that land. I know they said that people that were in Israel, they landed there kind of like how America is, and for thousands of years, that's how they became Israelites. But I feel like there has to be something more, that, everyone that they say is is one of these original 12 tribes of the Hebrew people have exact time where Thoth had kingship in the land. There's no way that is he related to these 12
Yeah,
tribes, and that's why
absolutely.
they're the 12 tribes?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it's actually ironic you're saying that, because with what's going on around the world now, the master teacher is putting out information relating to the true Israelites and Ishmaelites. And one of the updates that he that we got recently was him saying to reread these books, this Leviathan 666 books, right? And I was reading that, and that whole section that you're talking about, or there's a section in here that's talking about what you're saying, and it's because everywhere you go on the planet, the indigenous people of that land have been supplanted, and that's why that's why that is. And the original indigenous people would be the descendants of the Nagaru or Nagarnadu. And so that's why it's the same. And Tahuti is somebody that has reincarnated over and over and over and over again. And because he's the most knowledgeable person, and like I said, like he's known by many different names. But if I could just read a little bit from this scroll on page 145, where it's touching on the point you're making. Oh, my day nurse has arrived with my special concoction that's gonna make me make me heal even quicker. But yeah, on page 145 of Leviathan 666, the beast as the Antichrist, part 1 of 4. Right? So remember, there are 4 of these. This is just another one, part 2. But there are another 2 that... But it says here, the real Saudi Arabians are the true descendants of Ibrahim, right? Which becomes Abraham, and Hagar, who people pronounce like Hajar, Hagar or Hakare, through their son Ishmael, or they say Ismail or Ishmael. And it says, and Hagar bore Abraham a son, and Abraham called his son's name, which Hagar bore Ishmael. This is in Genesis 16:15. And then through Ishmael's second son, Kedar. These are their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael being Nebaioth, then Kedar, and that's just showing you that, you know, First Chronicles 1:29. But the master goes on to say, Kedar comes from the Hebrew word kavar, meaning blackened heavily and dark-skinned. Kedar, who was the father of the original black Arabs. Genealogy, history and names has proven them to be Negroid. The present representation of Arab is not true due to many foreigners having mixed their seed in with these Moors, which stems from the Latin word moreno, which means black. The word Moor is sometimes spelt from the French Moor, M-U-U-R, both coming from the ancient Romans and Greek Morus, produced mulatto, a person of mixed white and black ancestry. You see them as Arabs today. Due to all of these, this is talking about a time when there were lots of terrorist attacks by so-called Arabs. The biblical Arab is getting a bad name, right? So Abraham was a Chaldean, and his seed that can be found throughout Ishmael and Kedar are known as Bedouin, a word meaning wanderers, which is the same meaning for the word Arab, Araba, which became Arabia when they named the cars. In reality, most of the world does not know what a real Arab looks like. They are not like the people that you see in the media today. And then he goes on to name a few people like Osama bin Laden and Saudi, and it goes on. But he goes on to explain, what relates to your question, that if you study the world and study everywhere you go and study the indigenous people, I'm just trying to see. Yeah, let me read this piece because it kind of ties in. He mentions people like, you know, Saddam Hussein and, as I said, Osama bin Laden and all of these people. And he says, originally the land of Babylon should not be called an Arab, right? They're from the Ottoman Turk, because Iraq fell to the Ottoman Turks in the 16th century, making him Turkish. So while the media groups want to clump all these different nationalities together as Arabs, they should really look at each individual and the country they are from and realize that none of them are original Arabs. And he goes on to let me explain further. He says, each of the countries and people that are being portrayed as Arabs today are countries that were invaded by different nationalities, which are mostly Indo-European, and they're mixed in. They are not from the pure seed of Abraham. The people whom you see as Arabs today are not the original Arabs and can't really understand or speak the Arabic language. They don't know anything about them or what the Noble's Quran teaches. But I don't want to read all of it, but when you go through this, he goes on to start to explain that a lot of these people are like from they're Turks, they're Turkish, they're from, you know, places like Algerian, French, Italians, Spanish, people from Tunisia, and they group them all up. And I'm saying that in terms of what you're saying, if you go to anywhere on the planet, the indigenous people have been driven away, and then they mix with them to produce mulattoes or lighter versions, and then eventually they mix with each other and they fade away the darker indigenous people. And so wherever you go, where there was knowledge, whether it was in South America or in the Americans, like the same thing happens where you had the original Olmecs, which got mixed in, or the Shang dynasty under Hushen, they came and mixed with them to produce what they then started to call American Indians. When you see the word Indo or your India is tying into that, because you always had the Denisovans and the Homo florensis mixing in with the original Homo naledi or the Homo habilis to produce mulattoes, and then those mulattoes mixed in, and then Europeans come in and mix with them, and eventually you now see what you're calling American Indians that don't look like the Native Americans, who would be, you know, the ones that were mixed from the Olmec. So eventually things get whitewashed or washed out to the point where the indigenous original people, tribes, are forgotten to be from where they are. So you go anywhere on the planet, you go to Australia, you go to China, it's the same thing. So yeah, the question, you know, you're asking is true again, that yeah, Tahuti, the knowledge that was taught to these people gets, they migrate and they move to different places, and you look at the roots of everything, it will always tie back to ancient Egypt or ancient Tahuti and the masters that taught that information. Understood?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you so much for that
You're
clearance.
welcome.
I was really wondering that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering, but it's just like, I just think of the original Australians, like you just mentioned, and I know that they have a very strong history in their culture, and they remember. I mean, they gave down their history through verbally, right? And they speak of, they come from a land of Mu, I believe, or originators of Pleiadians and stuff. They said that they were seeded by Pleiadians. I wanted to know, are they different from the Nugaru, who are seeded by someone else, or are they the same?
The same thing I've just described, that you have the originals, and then so when you say aboriginals, sorry, we have some interference. Aboriginal or aboriginals, you can hear that it's an adaptation. Yeah, so the indigenous people would always be from the root race of the Nagaru all the way to the ancestors that came from the stars of the Orion and the Sirius star constellations. But then you have the same situation that's happened where you have like the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians coming in and mixing their DNA and their genetics to produce, you know, hybrids or offspring, and eventually they take over. And that's only been happening mainly in the last 6,000 years. And that's why now, with the coming in of the renewal of the sun cycle or the Aquarian age, people are starting to literally wake up and go back to being the everyone's basically being put in check and put in their place. So yeah, if you study again, we have this scroll by the master teacher called the coming forth by day, that goes into that as well. But again, I don't know if you can get hold of that right now because it's a classic. But yeah, so everywhere you go on the planet, this is a reality now. Whether people want to accept it or not, is that, as I explained in the previous question from the brother from Jamaica, it's like you have to recognize that 9 ether was first, and then 6 ether comes from 9 ether, and then you have ghost that comes from 6 ether, and it applies to everywhere. If you look at the cosmos, if you're looking at the star systems, you're going to have the Natharu with 9 ether, then you're going to have the what we would call the Dravidians or Dravadu with 6 ether, then you're going to have the Pleiadians with coming out of those Dravidians who are pale and ghost-like. You bring that to the planet, it's the same. You have the African root race, then you have, you know, the Homo florensis and the Denisovan, and then you get from them, you're going to get the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon and the Basque, and then you get from them the neutrinoid races, because it always has to start with the most authentic or genetically rich, and then it waters down. And to the same point, you know, wherever you go, whether it's, like I said, you can go to Alaska, you can go to anywhere on the planet, and that will hold true, because the original indigenous people are always going to be people of color. So we're going to go from the black to the brown to the red to, you know, the basically the pale, to the point where you get washed out to now, where even if you take it spiritually, you're dealing with necromancy, where you're giving energies to ghosts, you know, the worship of a ghost. You said a holy ghost, but really it's the ancestors of beings that have gone into ghost station. I don't want to digress too much from your original question, but I'm sure the point is clear to you.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just have one more, because I know I've asked a lot, but I just, some things I know a lot of people probably like me are wondering too. Who are the Dark Brothers? If you could break that down in the tablets, are they the draconian forces that are alive right now using 6 ether forces?
So when you say Dark Brothers, is that a specific part in the Holy Tablets that you're referring to, or you're talking about in general?
I'm referring to, the Emerald Tablets. They speak of the Dark Brothers or Brothers of Black. Do you have any? Can you like expound anything on that?
Again, it kind of ties into what I've just said in terms of the 9 ether. But what I'm gonna do, which Holy Tablets, which version are you referring to?
I'm using a reference book to the Emerald Tablets.
Okay, because there are
I can
several
tell you.
versions of the Emerald Tablets now. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, copy.
Yeah, and when if you are able to figure out which version and which, like, give me like quotes or reference so we can read it and then look at it. But again, I can only reason in the sense of when we're talking about, like, okay, you see, it's such a great question, and I wish I can spend a lot more time on it. But you see, like, now when you look in the world and you hear things like God said, "Let there be light," and then people will kind of miss the point that if he said, "Let there be light," that means he was in darkness or in blackness, or now in the scientific world they talk about dark matter, which is dark energy, right? So when you hear "let there be light," you would think, okay, but then light is, there are different types of light, because it doesn't tell you what type of light when he was saying "let there be light." And you have agreeable light, like I mentioned before, when you go into the 9 ether and you're dealing with the green light, and you look at the green one, or you look at Pandabab Yanun, or the being Yanun, who emanates the green light. But that's coming from darkness, because black has all colors combined is black. So in that biblical sense, God would have dwelled in darkness. But when you bring it to the light, there are different forms of light. As I said before, you had the amber light, which is a destructive light, as opposed to the green emerald light, which you're dealing with the green emerald tablets, because emerald is green in terms of when you look at the crystal and you look at nature and you look at everything that is healthy, it grows upwards. Whereas the opposite will be flank or going downwards, which is dealing with 6 ether pulling you down in that direction. So I'm saying that to say, as I already explained in your last question, that the dark or the black would be first, and then everything coming out of there when you then put white, which is the opposite of dark or black, it ends up with racism and the Illuminati, because when you're saying those that are illuminated or the enlightened ones. But then when you look at their practices and what they do, is chaos, is going against the natural order of things. And so it's the Luciferian, because the light bearer are going to be Luciferians or the Illuminati or those of the light, but they're different lights. There are lights that align with the, as I said, Michael and his angels, or Michael or Murdoch, or as we say, Tahuti. That's the being that has the green light, and the green light is a healing light. So yeah, so again, the black reference will always be to those beings that exist beyond light, or beyond the what, because when the light is turned on, it creates illusions and it creates chaos, because the things you're looking at, when you start to break them down, they're not solid, and they're vibrating at a vibration or frequency, because colors and light are coming from the dark energy, you see.
Yes,
So
sir.
the
Can I
beings that
expound a little?
sorry, go ahead.
Hey, absolutely. I just wanted to expound, maybe give a little more context. I didn't give too much context.
Okay.
So in the passage, he says that both banded together, eyes in order, brothers of darkness, they through the ages, antagonists, they to the children of men. Walked they always secret and hidden, found yet not found by the children of men. Forever they walked and worked in darkness, hiding from the light in the darkness of night.
Right.
Silently, secretly, use they their power, enslaving and binding the soul of men.
Okay, that last part is it threw me off a little bit, the binding the soul of men, because without, as I said, really knowing what version that is, it's like everything up until that point. But the thing is that the word soul is misinterpreted a lot as well with the word spirit. So that's sometimes they will interpret spirit as soul, because I'm saying that this is what I was saying in terms of the information that is shared in certain places. I touch on the Illuminati, but you also have the Brotherhood that deals with the green light and the darkness, which secrets are revealed only when you are worthy or have been initiated into that. But like I said, in terms of that specific part about binding the soul, I'll have to kind of come back to you on that, because it was a line up until that point, and if I was to interpret that word soul to spirit, then it would make more sense, because then it would be talking about those beings that don't have a soul, and they're being binded or kept in away from the secrets in darkness. But I'm gonna actually read that more, as I said, and come back to you next week on that specific emerald tablets and the questions you asked before. All
That
right.
sounds perfect. To give you the reference I was using, it's Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide by Bill
Okay.
Carson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. Tell that. Okay, we got another person calling.
I'll call them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that scroll. And yeah, I'll have to come back to him on that one. All right, let me go back to the Q&A. Okay, I want to thank Sakhet Ra, because we kind of got cut off, for showing us some ashuk and some love by your donation. And yes, we need to free our master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, Panda Babianun. We got a call online? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to the new caller. Rahubat caller, what's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question, please? Caller, you there? Okay, in the meantime, Akar X3R, thank you for your donation. And yeah, Anhu Kawun Kafush, he is free. But we want to catch up with that moment with his physical skin suit being amongst us as you know, the family. Yeah, it'll be good to get hold of that scroll and to read it, so we know where we're quoting and coming from. All right, let's go back to the questions. We have Kevin Chambers again. Do we get to a point where everyone just becomes more aware at a certain point in time, or it just depends on the person? Yes, we do, and this is the time now. The time now, when we say now, we literally mean now, as in this moment, but that now actually started from the master teacher breaking the seventh seal, which was in 1970 AD of the Gregorian calendar. So that now started there and is still continuing now. And that space of time is 30 years from the year 1970 to the year 2000, and another 30 years from the year 2000 to 2030, which is referred to in the books of Revelations as the hour. Okay, you have to read the book of Revelations from Revelation 1 all the way to kind of find out what that reference is for. But that period of time known as now was actually disrupted because of people or principalities in high places that were looking out for the time, the signs and times, right? So in 1940, but specifically 43, with the Philadelphia experiment, they disrupted that time. So you have kind of like a cycle within a cycle. So you got a cycle that is running from 1943, because the 3 years, you have to go and read The Man from Planet Risk and study the Philadelphia experiment and what happened, because when they carried out the experiment at that time, they didn't have the technology or they didn't have the equipment to be able to do the calculations. And that's why the calculations of aligning with the zero time reference, that's why when that experiment went wrong, Nikola Tesla was one of the people involved, and von Neumann, and they were basically like had to wait 3 years to build the computers or the to have the equipment to run the experiment, but they threw off time by 3 years. So you've got things running in the threes. So that's like 1943, where you had the vortexes opening, 43, 53, 63, every 10 years, 73. And then that glitch of 73, 83, 93, and on and on and on till now. That's still going. But then you have the 1970 going into, as you're saying, counting 30 years to the year 2000. But then the 2003, from the 3 year cycle that I mentioned before, well, not 3 year, but the 3 years off to give you every 10 years, ties into the 2003. But then you'll also have the 2030, which is the end of that 1 hour. But then you also got time going into 2043. I hope I'm not losing people, but those that are studying and reading will know what I mean, because when you go back to the Holy Tablets and you're reading the Seven Thunders, it explains. Let me see if I can quickly find it. If you look at the Seven Thunders, it says here, the seventh thunder, the end of the world as you know it, the year 2030. But then there's another part in the tablets, in the Holy Tablets, where it talks about the last lift of 2043. So going back to the question, there is a definite point in time where once that seventh seal was open, people start to wake up by the coming in of the new sun cycle. And so, yeah, that's the point. But some people will not wake up because they're too far in the sixth ether cycle to the point where even though they know truth is here, they will still not wake up. Okay, we got another caller. Rahubat caller, where are you calling from? What's your name and what's your question?
Oh, Robert, how you doing?
Doing my best, Rahubat.
I'm from Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My name is Howard, and I have these holes in my ears, and I heard you speak on it a little bit, but it lifted my spirits up for real though. I ain't gonna lie to you, but yeah, I want to know a little bit more of them. I think I was born with them. I got a little quick story about when I was younger, around 4 or 5. I was sitting on my mama's, you know how your mom lay down on the couch and we all watching a movie, and she fell asleep. My brother was on the side of me, and I got picked up by, I believe it's extraterrestrials, and it was like going in a fast forward movement into my basement, into this little department, and I came right back out real quick. And that story just that stayed in my mind all the way up to this day. You know what I'm saying? I'm 45 years old, so
Yeah.
So yeah, I always wonder about the ears.
I mean,
The holes in the ears.
Yeah, I hear you. We actually did a video already on it. And the thing about these types of things that are quite personal is that there are people who have holes in their ears that are not related to any of what we're talking about. And when you generalize or say things, then everyone may think it's pertaining to them. Because it's a personal encounter and experience, you know, we don't really try to explain or give you a breakdown of your personal experience, which was really for you. However, the master has spoken about those people who this particular aspect that he's talking about relates to, and that these people have been chosen to be guides at a time when it gets necessary, because if catastrophe happens on the planet to the level where satellites and communication is cut off, where people are not able to use their cell phones and whatever, then these special chosen people will be the ones that they will communicate with, and they will be able to guide others to safe zones or safe places. They will do that by being able to communicate with them directly. You could say telepathically, but they will hear the instructions and will be able to help other people to safety. That's what the master has taught about those specific people. But we're not in a position to say who that is, or just because because everything has the real aspect, and then you have a distorted or a distortion of the real thing. So that's why even like when he speaks about the golden children, and that relates to the question I answered previously about the cycles, where I was saying that you got golden children that were born in the specific period of 1973 to 2003. This is what I was saying about the cycle that's running in the like 70s to the year 2000, but then you also have a cycle that's running like 73 to 2003. So yeah, there are beings and special people like the golden children that need to be touched. And the reason I touched on the golden children, because it's a similar thing to the people that have the holes. And everybody might want to claim that, oh, I'm a golden child, or I'm the special person with the holes in my ears. Some are, some are not. And so you will know within your being, within yourself, if you are, because you will feel and know it. And so all you have to do is be mindful and study and read and wait till the time it will all fall in place and it will make sense. It will make sense to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not a big reader, but ever since I heard about y'all, my wife been buying books and everything. We just been on it. Like my TV stays on with y'all talking in the background.
That's right. But you've made a
So
very important point that I need to touch on, which is the reading, right? Unless somebody has some type of reading was difficulty on a very high level, everybody should be reading. And if you're not reading, then you can be watching and listening, because the reality is every time you read a scroll, what you're going to get from it is going to be different to what anybody else is going to get from it, because it's going to be unique to you. And that's why we always encourage people to read, because there is a magic formula in the books that will calibrate your brain, and like it's like the codes, because when you look at letters, they're actually codes, like like for example, you take the DNA or the double helix, and you have the letters A, C, G, T that can be arranged in different ways to give you an outcome. That's what happens when you're looking at words in the book, but you're really looking at letters that are arranged in a particular way that you may not even be able to decipher, but it's having an impact on you because your subconscious is still able to pick it up. And so reading the books is absolutely crucial for people to get from the source whatever the code is that has been programmed specifically for you. To some people that may go over their heads, but I'm telling you from experience that everyone reading the scroll will definitely be reprogrammed in a way that they may not even be aware of. But go ahead. That was a great point. I just wanted to emphasize.
Much love, man. I'm telling you, I'm about to finish my second book, and I never finished a book in my life, but I'm in there though.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm when I feel like I'm being steered in the right direction, man, it's nothing but love and hard work, man. So
That's right.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad. I appreciate, love you too, and thanks for your call. And I'm glad you said it's hard work, because you have to do the work. Everyone has to do the work. There are no shortcuts. This is not spookism. It's not a dip you in water religion and all of a sudden you're saved and you're going to heaven. You have to do work, because when you start to dissect and break it down, what is heaven, etc., etc. But you have to do some work on yourself. Everybody, we all have to do work on ourselves. And and again, my brother just said, the love, when he said much love, it doesn't matter. It's not about just reading the books, right? Acquiring and accumulating lots of information. Your heart seat, that again, relating to the previous question I answered, the green light emanates from your heart, and so it's about the love, the ashuk. So if you don't have that love, genuine true love, I mean, people can have their opinions and say this. It's not about being judgmental or you saying somebody's love is not true and yours is true, and it's just not. It doesn't matter. It's like truth is truth. It doesn't matter what anybody says, right? Only the beings that can really see your heart, your sincerity, can tell you whether you're operating under a shuk or not. And so, it's the love, the ashuk, the divine love that comes with these things all connecting and aligning. So yes, you read the books, yes, you have the knowledge, yes, you have the actions, but it has to also come from your true heart or true love. And once you have that connection, you're connected to anyone else that's on that vibrational frequency. So much love for your questions and your call.
All right, I do.
Wadu Jamal. Okay, so well, back to the question. Lost ones 144. We all got ET DNA. We are then at least a piece of them. Yeah, that's true. Kevin Chambers. So are they only looking at their bloodline or study everyone as a whole? Not sure who the they you're referring to. If you're talking about extraterrestrials, different extraterrestrials have an interest for their own, and some study everyone, abduct people for food, abduct people for experimentation, for carrying out all types of genetic splicing, etc., etc. Nathan Gilbert, have you got another call? All right, let's take it.
Yep.
My question, Rahubat, thank you. And my question would be pertaining to melanin and its uses on electrical components and devices, and apparently its future uses in things like hardware, on AI hardware, and things like this. And did the ancient astronauts have this kind of technology? Thank you.
Oh man, that is such a great question, and I'm trying to see if I've got it with me. We have a scroll from the master teacher called "The Melanin Children." If you haven't read that scroll, I would definitely advise and direct you to reading that. Yeah. See what, like going back to the previous question about darkness and the whole point about things in the dark coming to light, right? Melanin is that molecule that you see is encoded in all nine ether melanated beings, and they've learned and they've known for a very long time. They've had studies in Scandinavia, because once they recognize and realize that how powerful melanin is, because when you go into that whole thing about the curse of Canaan and Leproma and him not having melanin, and where you get the 11 sons or children of Canaan from, or like not Canaan or Canaan, right? The Canaanites. It's because of melanin, and they recognize this. And when you start to look at those original Scandinavians, or what we refer as the children of the Pleiadians, they knew that melanin, how powerful melanin is, and there's different types of melanin. Okay, so you've got neuromelanin when you're dealing with just the formation of your brain and so forth, and how it works, and why, you know, at night time, you know, you got night and day. So you got melatonin that's produced during the night, serotonin, and just what it does. And they're now making processors and quantum computers run on melanin. I mean, if you just Google it, search, you'll find so much information on it. So they've dedicated so much to studying melanin, because that's what makes melanite children special in terms of their abilities and everything. And they're like, without melanin is in everything. It's just that it's concentrated or produced more by, you know, 9 ether melanite children, whereas those who lack melanin, is that it's not being produced in abundance, and it's regressive. Yeah, so the sun, like, they coat rockets and things like that are traveling at high speeds, because, you know, even in your dreams, like when you're traveling, you have to travel at the speed of light, or you can't really travel beyond the speed of light, because what is contained in it is this dark matter that we say relates to the ether. because you got 9 ether. That's why I said before, 9 ether is a combination of all existing gases, conscious and conscious gases, which manifest when it comes down into reality as suns. Because the sun, right, this is where you get what we call sun heat genes, because to cool, you had to cool down from coming from that conversion of hydrogen and helium, which is the ball of atomic energy that we're calling the sun, which is constantly burning and converting hydrogen and helium. So that's where we come from as children of the sun. And there's a video of the master teacher when he talks about the coming in of the sun cycle and people of the sun, and how this new era we're in is about how the sun is getting closer, or shall I say the planet's getting closer to the sun, and that heat is what is going to activate you, because you're getting outformation that's coming by way of the vibrations and the knowledge that becomes information from the sun, and it's going to activate you and transform you, especially when you're cleaning yourself inside out. And what they're referring to as junk DNA, it's not really junk DNA, it's DNA that they know very little about, that is being activated by way of wu-sabat and the way of the right knowledge that the master teacher is putting out. So yeah, it's something that is actually so important. But you also have the fact that if you're not cleansed inside out and doing the things you need to do relating to your spiritual growth and the diets and everything you're doing for your physical as well, that you're not gonna you're not gonna activate. So great question. Okay, let me move on to the other questions. When I'm in contact, this is from Nathan, when I'm in contact with the Pleiadians, they don't just have blue eyes and blonde hair. They have many color eyes and different types of hair like us. The Elohim created them in that image like us. No, what you're saying is, yes, there's always a predominant, like I said before, on the planet, you'll have root races, but then you can have hybrids where they have now mixed with other beings to produce sub-races or subspecies of themselves. So yes, you're going to always find that there are many hybrids now, but the original Pleiadian, and again, when we say Pleiadians, you're talking about a star system where the original inhabitants would be those original, just like when we talk about Orion, although we talk about there are many beings that come from Orion, but the original beings, the roots would have been the Natharu. So yes, today there are different types of Pleiadians and different types of many species or beings that have mixed in with each other to produce, even like today, if you read on and look at, if I can find it quickly, right, yeah, here we go. If you look at this scroll, okay, yeah, this scroll is called 18 plus 18 plus 137 genes of the mitochondrial DNA. If you look in here, you see that there are pictures. This is a picture of a Pleiadian, right? And there are others. I'm just picking one to show you, all right? And then you've got, if you were to go through this, some of the images, I'm not going, okay, here's another Pleiadian child. Yeah, got it. All right, so now there's a particular child a picture I want to show you. Okay, I'll show you these two and then I'll find the other one. You will see the traits, yeah, of people because of the mixtures. And that's why, let me do one more. Right, that's why I want to show you one of a black couple. Tell me when you're done, yeah? I'll show you a picture of a black couple that, because of that's in, oh, I've got to find it. I think it's going to be in the, oh yeah, here we go. I think it's in the Lotus of Life, if I'm correct. This shows different types of extraterrestrials as well, but there's a particular picture I want to show you. It's the one of a black couple that have children that came out with like blonde hair and blue eyes. If I can find it, this has got so much information in it. Maybe it's not this scroll, but if I can find it. But anyway, I'm just basically saying to you that you do have, I've got another one I can show you, but I'm trying to find that one. If anyone is aware of the picture I'm talking about and they want to tell me where it is, that would help. But yeah, I'm basically saying that you always have the root races and then you have the mixtures or the hybrids. This is not the picture I was trying to find. If I do throughout the live, I'll try and share it. But yeah, it's just, you're going to have throwbacks and different sub mixes from the original roots. Okay, yeah, so that's not uncommon. Just got my slit-eyed vision, not as good, but okay. All right, let's move on to other questions. Okay, that was before, it's not cutting out anymore. Okay, okay. Why do the Orions have this massive war between the grey extraterrestrials, and how will they resolve their problems? The wars have been going on for years. Star Wars, that's why they get the whole movie and program of Star Wars from, because you're dealing with different okay, sometimes a star system that beings reside on can collapse, okay? You know, like white dwarfs, like when you study stars, they can burn out. That's what I was saying about our star. The nearest star to us is our sun, which is 93 million miles away, or sometimes 91, it fluctuates, right? That can burn out. And if it did, all the planets that are in that solar system with inhabitants will have to evacuate or find somewhere else to live. A lot of times, these beings will build crafts and they will try to take refuge somewhere, right? And sometimes, when they get there, they try to take over. Wars begin because it's about territory, it's about control. This already happened with, you know, when Tarnush and his people came and they were allowed to reside on Risk. And then he started to want to take over. And then the wars started, they were driven out. So it depends. And then you have like reptilians that are abducted, because you're mentioning the Greys in particular, the reptilians that abducted original Greys or EBEs, extra biological entities, they were then, it's almost like, you see how today people will take dogs, right? And they will breed new types of dogs, like is it a bulldog? Yeah, the bulldog. There's a breed called bulldog, right? Yeah, but they will breed new hybrids of different dogs and make some of them very aggressive and sell them in, you know, black market. Let's see the word. being derogatory again with the term black market. But anyway, so yeah, they will make them vicious by injecting their DNA into these new hybrids, and so there are different wars over different things, over control over territories. So you know these wars, they all filter down. Like even in the one we mentioned in the book of Revelations 12:7, where you had a species of beings that will fight the dragon race, and in Islam they refer to them as the jinns, but they're different species. Like you had the Nareen species, so they fight against each other for different reasons, much like what's happening on the planet today. And some of these six ether beings, when they are defeated, they just go somewhere else and start the chaos. So, but it's ultimately about agreeable and disagreeable, and trying to maintain peace and chaos. I mean, maintain peace against chaos. Go ahead.
You got TikTok. A lot of them keep asking about the Rh negative blood type.
Yeah.
They want to know your thoughts on it, and what are your thoughts and the facts on Rh negative blood type.
We answered it for the other question, but okay, let me try and make it simple and concise. Originally, and we're talking about, I guess, planet beings on the planet Earth or planet water. Originally, the first beings that were on this planet were descendants of the Natharu, as by way of what we know as the Pataites, okay? And they had only the positive blood types. No chaos, no wars, nothing. They lived happily and peacefully. Then you had the beings that came here and abducted them, were eating them, and then had sex with them to produce children. This is all broken down in your biblical story in Genesis, when you're reading Genesis 6. Read the whole of 6, but specifically 6:4, it's talking about these beings that fell down. We already spoke about the books of Revelation 12:7, where there was a war in the heavens, right? Because remember that is before your Genesis story, because you're talking about the heavens, right? So, and those draconian beings, they were cast down here. Then they tell you they fell, right? The Nephilah or the Nephilims that came down here. And at that point, they were not allowed to mix with the original beings on the planet. These short beings that became known as the pygmies, which was an insulting way of calling them like dwarfs, but they were pygmies, were Pataites, who had two heights for the male and the female. The males were 5 foot and 5 inches. 5 foot and 4 inches. And the females were the other way around, 4 feet and 5 inches. And because they were not allowed to mix these beings that came down here, they broke that law and they had sex with them and produced offspring who now had their genetics. And that's why they say, oh, God was very disappointed, or he said it grieved him in his heart that these beings were weak and wicked. At that point, they've interjected their blood types. This is where the negative blood types came in. That's why he was like, he's going to wipe them out. And then you had the stories of the different floods. All right, so, so basically, then you had the elders, the overseers realized that they had broken that law, because the children that were born were now tall, or giants. That's why you started to hear about the giants. There were giants in those days. And you start to hear about people like Goliath, you know, the story of Goliath and David, right? So the bloodlines got mixed in, and then they were trying to separate the two by quarantining these beings into an area they call the red zone, all right? Then you had a zone called the green zone to keep them apart, but they still managed to find their way into raping and continue the breeding. And then other extraterrestrials finding out about, because it's like once one person knows something's happening, everyone's like, what? There's a place called Earth and we can go there? So they started coming down, having parties, mixing in, creating all types of beings. They were having competitions to see who's going to create the best types of beings. Some of the beings were deformed. They couldn't do certain things. Even with the Anunnaki, they had to make various adjustments to their breeding until they got a being that could actually produce and breed by themselves. So I'm just saying that when you start to look at the bloodlines, this is where all the different blood types came in. And then there were mixtures with other beings or animals, etc., that were on the planet. So by the time you get to the Adamites being grafted, you had beings that have already come here from like Nirvana that was settled in India, place called Bali in India. You had the Natharu that were originally here who had their offspring as the Pataites. You started to get shaggy beings that came from Sirius. And they were again, if you, oh, look at that, it's right in front of me. Sometimes that's how it happens, right? You had the different beings because they now had the brown fur, the red fur, and so all different types of beings started to mix to produce hybrids, and that's how the different blood types came about. Old blood, originally the Natharu's children were all positive, mainly O positive. We could literally go on and on about this subject, but then you had, when the Pleiadians came, they were also doing all these experiments. So you had people that had like 6 arms. This is where, when you start to look at the Hindus and their beings that they worship, they had beings with trunks, like elephant trunks, all this experimentation with different beings trying to produce hybrids and showing off. So in the Bible, you find beings with 6 toes, now beings with different arms. So when you say you're made in the image and likeness of God, you have to ask which God, because how come we don't all grow with 6 toes, and how come we don't all worship beings with 6 arms and beings with trunks? Like if you go and look at like the Hindu beings, they have many types of beings. You've got beings that are covered in hair from head to toe, right? Like they suffer from something they refer to as hirsutism, and that's because of the shaggy mix. You got like the different extraterrestrials started coming here. We mentioned them: Teros, Deros, Duanis, the Pleiades, the Octorians, the Orat. There's so many beings that are here on the planet, and they all started to mix. So when people say, what do they want to hear about? The RH negative. That's right. So that RH negative, if you start to look at the people in power, yeah, that's your presidents and your people in control, a lot of their bloodline is the same. That's why they mix amongst themselves, and they will always only have certain bloodlines that are in the highest positions. You can Google this on Google now about the presidents of America. They're all related. And you look at the other countries in terms of like the monarchies, and yeah, so that's what happens. So the RH is the rhesus monkey, because when the Pleiadians did their experiments to get to the perfect Adam or Adamites, they were mixed with the Homo simians, they were mixed with the porcine, they mixed with the canine. So this is where all these different bloodlines came in, and that's why till this day they tell you that the dog is man's best friend, because scientifically they've found out that the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon and their DNA goes back to these beings. Yeah, so today everyone's mixed, and different blood types are now in every race, but the RH negative bloodline goes back to these blue bloods and the red bloods, and that's a whole different subject in itself to break down. But you look at the political parties, you have the cold-blooded, where the reptilian bloodline that goes to those that are cold-blooded, they would have the blue ties, the red blood, and it's a big story. You go back to looking at Dracula, because remember I said they come from the Draco constellation, right? So Dracula is a hemophiliac, which means that they have to have certain blood. So when Dracula bites you, sucks your blood, and that's because of these ones that need to drink and eat flesh and drink blood ties into that bloodline, you see, and that's those reptilians. So I know I said I was going to make it short, but there's just so much information in wu-sabat that it can't always just be like short, because things tie into things that tie into things. But if you guys keep asking specific questions and probing, we can always go down. Now, finally, it's just like the books are just right in front of me. Like, look at the bloodlines. These are the bloodlines that we're talking about. And you start to study these people. Yeah, this book is called History, right? And it's his story of where they came from. Who do we have on there? We have Hitler. We have Albert Pike. You know, we can go on and on and on, and why they want to maintain certain bloodlines. But I think I've given that question a lot of airtime. Right.
You've got a caller waiting, but we've got a question in the studio.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so Rahubat Zamal.
Rahubat Zamal, Tad.
This is so crazy because we was channeling exactly who you just mentioned, and we was talking about. My question was originally someone that I know who is mixed race, and their mother is white and their father is white. So I was basically saying to Zamal that she doesn't carry the mitochondrial DNA, or I was more so asking if she does carry the mitochondrial DNA from the father. And then he said from the mother. And I was like, huh? I'm saying that the mum is a white. And he was like, yeah, but is she blonde hair, blue eyes? And I was like, no, she's brown haired and brown eyes, the mother, right?
Right.
Anyway, so we ended up in a conversation.
What's the actual question?
I'm coming.
Okay.
And then you started talking about the bloodlines, and then we got to extraterrestrials and the creation. The question is about who we call adult Hitler.
Right.
And who actually gave him that name, because we know that that wasn't actually his name.
Right.
So, and we know that from Extraterrestrials and the Creation, page 72, that the 80th of the 200 fallen Elohim was called Hitler. So did he just announce himself as Hitler, or how did that happen? I don't think it's in his story, but if it is, please.
No, it's not, but I was just
because I know it touches upon it in there, but not as in much detail as it does in this scroll, but it doesn't actually say, so who gave him the name?
Okay, right. Let me answer that. You said something which I need to say for the listening audience.
Sure.
Every woman carries the mitochondrial DNA, right? So it doesn't matter if you're Caucasian or black. It's just that the black being first is going to be more potent, etc. But the mitochondrial DNA is in, both. It's just females carry it, and they pass it on to their female offspring.
Sure.
As far as the name Hitler and who named him, you said you found out that that wasn't his name. Did they tell you what his name was?
Well, wait. It says that, so on page 71, it in Extraterrestrials and
Creation, yeah.
It says,
look at that.
However, by the time you got to the part they thought was already planted in your brain of Hitler being a tyrant, because Adolf Hitler was a Jew himself, and his last name was originally Schlichtenberg.
Okay.
Is that how you say it?
Right, but what was his first name? Because the master does explain. I was trying to find Extraterrestrial Creation, but I don't have it. But
he does break down. It doesn't say, but it does break down. He does break down Adolf.
Yeah.
You might be able to.
Yeah, because
decipher it
what okay. Let's
page 71.
Page 71. I can answer the question, but I just wanted to be clear where you said that his name wasn't Adolf Hitler. I know it has been said that the name Hitler has no apparent meaning and that the name is just a collection of letters. But this is not true because it does have a meaning. In fact, the name of the 80th of the 200 fallen Elohim is Hitler, and it's spelled Hitla as opposed to the other Hitler, and the Shuriq Hitler. But yeah, it doesn't say here that his name was not Hitler,
But it does say that his mother's name was...
Who? Okay, hey, on the other page, 71,
Tua.
who is Adolf Hitler? Answer, the New World Encyclopedia. Adolf Hitler ruled Germany.
So like maybe like 3 paragraphs down.
Yeah, so it then says... Adolf Hitler was a Jew himself, and his last name was originally Schöchengruber. I did my best, which was his mother's last name. This is all a part of the spell. Yeah, but I'm saying it. I don't see. I mean, we can look into it. Okay, look. Let's look at what the name Adolf Hitler means. Adolf, according to the Yeah. I mean, the question. I'm going to answer the question, but I was just trying to get where you said his name wasn't that. If it wasn't that, we need to find out what it was before.
Well, yeah.
But the main point the master teacher was making, or as you say, like it's like when I asked a question to religious people who named God or who named Allah, because that would tell you like, okay, whoever's naming you is in control of you. Like when you have a child, you name the child, right? So these beings, a lot of these beings have, you hear this a lot on social media as well, they keep reincarnating or taking over or using a vessel of someone on the planet. So that's why he's explaining that Hitler would have been a reincarnation of or taken over the vessel of this person that we know as Hitler.
Sure.
But what's interesting is a lot of history of things that have been written about him, and it also ties into the whole thing with Kanye West not being allowed in the country today. Because the whole thing about the Hitler story is starting to emerge with a lot of information that was hidden. And although he's been painted as a disagreeable bad character, a lot of things are now being revealed to say that perhaps it's not exactly the history that you've been given.
Wow.
But yeah, in this scroll, the master was mentioning that being of the 200 fallen angel influenced him. Just like when we look at the Flugerod story with Jakub, he was also influenced by these Pleiadians because they activate. He had 2 brains, as you know. They activated him and gave him that thought telepathically to go about creating that race of beings called Flugerods that he was going to rule over, because he was angry about being teased for having a big head, and because obviously he was a product of the mixture of the Danakil with the Teros.
Well, right.
Yeah, so there was a genetic thing. So yeah, these extraterrestrial beings, and when you look at the history of Adolf Hitler, he was, these Pleiadians, they contacted Madame Blavatsky of the Thule Society, and she was a witch, and they basically influenced her and utilized her to tell Hitler and pick Hitler as their guy, and they also influenced him to produce what he thought was called the Aryan race.
Right.
The Aryan race is supposed to be like, they thought it's going to be superior beings. Until this day, when Europeans refer to themselves as the Aryan race, it's because when you look at the gravitation, as with the Flugerods, it's that you had to go from taking the black and brown gene to create the lesser colors, like the red gene, and then going down to the pale to come to an absence of color. And that's what Hitler was trying to do, because these Pleiadians that had blonde hair, blue eyes, it's funny, I just showed pictures of some Pleiadians from the scrolls. They were passing themselves off as being those beings, supreme beings. So because they gave him technology and gave him certain technology to build like what they call flying saucers, and he was going to almost win the war, as in, because he had a whole complete society called the SS, or the you had the Third Reich, which was separate from Germany. So when he got into learning about the occult and dealing with the witch and dealing with these Pleiadians, his whole thing was not just about controlling the world anymore. He kind of was going back in time, and that's why he had a lot of doubles as well, clones like you have today. That's why, again, people see like footage of when Joe Biden was around, and people like clearly saying that's not the real person, because a lot of these people have clones, and even Trump, a lot of people are saying he has clones because Hitler had clones. You have to watch movies like The Boys from Brazil. But anyway, so when they thought they got him, it was his clone that they found, right? But the real one went back in time, and that continued. But yeah, that's a great question. But yeah, these beings, they basically can. That even with us, we say, I know you got the flag up. We say that you got to be so careful with what you're doing every day, because you can be taken over by these beings.
I was just about to ask
that.
that.
And you're acting and behaving in a completely different way, because you're now being compromised by these entities. If, like, for example, anger is something that you can't control. Yeah.
So that being, Nadum, that being would just be looking for another vessel to reincarnate into.
Absolutely.
Tour.
Yeah. And there are people now that show you footage of people that look, in fact, if you look in the Man from Planet Risk book, this is what I'm saying, a lot of things that people are talking about today and talking about on social media, when you look at them, the master broke this down, all this stuff down like literally years and years ago. There's in the Man from Planet Risk book, I've got it right here. This is the first time I've actually used a lot of, this is my original copy, but I need to show this, right? If you start to look at the pictures he put out, when did this book come out?
1996.
Yeah, around 96, right? You got that one, yeah? Let me show you. This is him explaining and showing you clones of people, or people that were here before and they've come back again. And you can see they're black, white, look, I'll keep, oops. Yeah. And now people are doing and putting these on YouTube and morphing and literally like showing you how it's the same people. They're videos of people like Eddie Murphy, Jay-Z, and all kinds of people that they come back, they keep recycling. But we've got another live call. Did that finish your question?
Two.
Okay.
They've been waiting for that.
I know, they've been waiting for a long time. So greetings, caller. Nadum, go ahead. What's your name, where you calling from, and what's your question, please?
Rahubat, Dre calling from the States.
Hey, Dre, how you doing?
Always good. Good to have the live back and functioning, because I know last week it was kind of freezing up a little bit.
Yeah. Last week we had a few technical issues, but yeah, I'm glad to. Go ahead.
What was it? I had a question, also experience 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I was driving. I had a rental car, and I got pulled over by the police. And when you have a rental car, you have an out-of-state license plate. So they pulled me over. And I wasn't doing anything wrong, but, just from getting this information, understanding, and experiences of being, classified as a black man in America, two cops in two different vehicles, they rolled together. One pulled me over and the other one drove behind them and got out too. One officer pulled me over and said that I was going 2 miles over the speed limit.
And then he didn't want me to cause an accident. That was his reason for stopping me. And then he asked me, he's like, do you understand? And I was like, I overstand. And then his eyes got big. And it made the energy shifted when I, responded like that. And then, I gave them my information, license plate and all that. The officer wanted to run my information. His partner then tried to kind of like, create a scenario or try to make me hostile by asking me questions saying, you wouldn't have guns or drugs in the car, would you? And I didn't respond in the way that I guess he was expecting me to respond. I was just like, well, no, I'm not into those type of things. We could just sit here patiently and be quiet, until your partner comes back with my stuff and I could go about my way. And he's like, oh, you don't want to talk? You have an attitude? I was like, no, everything's good. We don't have to have a conversation. We could just sit here silently and, be in peace. And then I noticed that his face started getting red. They started getting upset. And the point that I'm making is I realized when they realize they can't bring you down to, I guess, what that root chakra, that red energy or their level, like that 5 or 6 ether level, they'll try to do whatever they can to make you lower your energy or your chakras to bring you down from that 9 ether to their level so they could try to bait you or attack you or do whatever they could do to unalive you.
Absolutely.
Is that true? Because, that was my experience. I was viewing it and going through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not even just the police. It's about everything is energy. And what happens is that you might be experiencing something from that person, but we were just talking about it, but you may not think like, oh, that person is a vessel that is being utilized by one of these entities that want to feed off of that negative energy. So it is about provoking you. It is about bringing your vibration down and bringing your energy low so that you, like you say, use that chakra that deals with, like that type of vibration and energy. So this is why wu-sabat teaches us, like we say, no one wins the race in racism. We're about love and unity. We're about peace. And when you maintain that vibration, you're vibrating on a higher level. So the green light, that type of energy. So it's about, maintaining, because once they throw you off your square, so to speak, you then start to behave in the manner that it's in line with what they want. And so, when you're calm and collective and deal with that, you got to know the law as well, because when you don't know the law, then they will take advantage. So it's in our best interest to be very knowledgeable on the law, because it's the same. They play games, but you have to learn to play the game as well to win. Like, if you don't know the rules of the game, then you're going to be thrown off. So good on you not to get aggravated. And it's fear. It's almost like, this is another thing I'm going to share that, people may not even be aware of. Have you ever asked yourself why the police light is blue? Because when you start to study energy and colors and vibrations and look at the blue light, it's because it ties into having the blue eyes. Because like when you're afraid, you don't look at people in the eyes, or like they put that fear in you. So the minute you hear that blue light and then the siren and look at the hertz of the siren as well, like it's on a particular frequency. So it's all about intimidation and like you say, bringing you to a low vibration, and the time is 21:21. So you're right. You're definitely right, and that's why it's important to always maintain, being peaceful and dealing with things on a factual basis and not an emotional basis. Because once emotions get involved, it's like energy is emotion, and that energy, if it's the wrong one, you're gonna get triggered, or they're gonna get triggered. So we have to maintain peace, love and unity at all times. But definitely now, because of documentation, they have to document things, cameras that they wear, so that the evidence is there. But a lot of them are not trained themselves in the law. So some police officers that don't know the law, they think just because they're wearing a uniform, right? The master explains this as a mental uniform. Because you wear a uniform, you feel like you're above the law, you can do anything you like and get away with it. So when you're seeing, you know, some of these thugs or some people that were like, they just joined the police force so that they think they can get away with, you know, being brutal to people, and they realize very quickly that, you know, when somebody actually knows what the law states and can bring them to, yeah, basically, even though a lot of the times they still get away with it in terms of police brutality, yeah, we just got to be a bit more aware or mindful and study and know the law. And so you can actually deal with any situation in an appropriate manner. Because the minute you're triggered and you come out giving them an excuse, they're going to take your, you know, as you know, they're unalive many people. But we're getting to a time where, yeah, truth is kind of spreading like a fire worldwide. So more and more people are learning of how to deal with those types of situations. Man, I couldn't believe the time's gone so quickly. But go ahead, Drake. Did you have any more?
Yeah, I had another question. So recently I watched an interview the other day by Jacob York. He was online, and then he was talking about wu-sabat, and then he was talking about, I guess, the stuff that he did. And to me, it was coming off kind of like he pretty much was wanting fame, money, and notoriety from it, and he wasn't in it or doing the practices for the right reasons. And the position, I guess, that he's in now is kind of like what he wanted. So he pretty much had to sacrifice or throw away the master teacher to help bring him down a little bit. Is that correct? That's kind of how it was kind of coming off.
Well, there's enough evidence coming out. Again, when it comes to the case, we're very mindful not to go into too much details, but, you know, he's one of the major conspirators, according to a lot of evidence that has been put out, even from Sheriff Richard Sills, you know, who was the sheriff in the county, Putnam County. So there's so much evidence now that people, even Habiba Washington, and, you know, most of the people that were part of the conspiracy, conspiracy, you know, they all have mentioned Jacob's major part in it all. But, you know, the master has forgiven them and has also been like, even though he knows it's really for them to come forward and do the right thing, but the legal case is still going on. But yeah, a lot of them did think they were gonna get, you know, book deals and movie deals and get money and get famous, and, you know, that just shows you that the devil never has loyalty to anyone. So they got betrayed, they didn't get anything. And, you know, the poster that the master that we've got out, can someone grab it for me? The master does, in fact, it's on the website, you don't need to, I'll just go on the website. Yeah, anyone. Like he explains in that you know, that they didn't get the price they thought they were gonna get for betraying him. Yeah, let me just let me just thank you. Tawat. This post is what I'm referring to, right? Most people should have seen this already, and if you haven't, then yeah. So, you know, I read this. It says, I came out of the East, 1945 AD, Africa, Ghana, onto the Western world, a son of physical parents. I was raised up amongst them to know them. I came forth in 1970 AD to give them what they believed in, until after 30 years they could learn to want what I really came to teach them by 2000 AD. Yet they refused me. Some betrayed me and offered me into the hands of the evil ones for a small price they did not receive. Yet I forgive you all before I depart. I'm saying that to say that even the small price they thought they were going to get, they did not receive it. And it has caused, you know, it's caused a lot of chaos. And we just want the master teacher home now. But yeah, he's supposedly one of the major conspirators in the case.
Mm. And last question: what was the original purpose for the dog being created? The dog and the cat. What were their original like purposes of being created for? Like, what were they meant to do?
Right, good question. The thing is, when we say the dog, right, in our minds, like most things, most people look at the dog today and think that's what the dog was like back then. The dog you see today, especially the domesticated dog, it's kind of like an evolution from the wolf, and so even though you're looking at it as a dog, and one of the jokes the master gave is like the dog is constantly trying to tell you who he is by going woof woof, which I find
Okay, yeah.
is actually a descendant of the wolf. So when you go back to, as you say, the dog is actually going, like most things go back to ancient Egypt, where when you look at Anubis or Anupu, right, who is a jackal, yeah, so they try to mimic that jackal because in ancient times the dog or the jackal was associated with death rites, where they look at Anupu as the angel of death because he came to collect the souls, and dogs can hear and see spirits, and they used to use them in ancient Egypt to guard those beings from these disagreeable entities that will come to try and steal the soul of the deceased. So, but bringing it to where you're tying it into the cat, the rat, and the dog, it was that when Abraham was tasked to go and clean out the Caucasus Mountains and to clean out the filth that was, because these beings, the flugel rods, when they are also then mixed with the Canaanites, they were on all fours, they were practicing bestiality, they were eating raw flesh. It was literally very filthy, and he needed a way of cleaning out, the deceased, and it was just a mess. So they wanted to create something that could do that, and so they took the formula from splicing the genes of a cat, a rat, and a dog, and that produced the hog. Again, we say pig, but the modern day pig, comes from the hog. It's not the same as the old one. So that was like a olden time, what we call a Hoover today, where we clean the carpet or whatever with. So it was used to go and eat, because the three natures, you needed something with intelligence, and that's where the cat came in. You needed something that was a bit aggressive, and then that's the canine or the dog. And then you also needed something that could eat anything, and that was the hog or the pig. So that's how they managed to create it to be able to do the work of cleaning out the filth. And that's actually quite interesting, because you will ask people today, like, would you sleep with a cat or a rat or a dog? And people will say no. But then if you're mixed with the DNA of a cat, a rat, and a dog, or the porcine, canine, or simian, then, as in, the modern day Adamites, and then you do the same thing. It's like, make it make sense. So obviously, in terms of racial mixing, it's, we teach to try to keep your genetics as pure as possible. But yeah, so that's kind of the origin. If you want to read more about that, you will find that in many of the scrolls. There's a scroll the master teacher put out actually called the dog, and that goes into a lot more detail about that whole incident. All right.
Okay.
Tawat,
Got one.
Unfortunately, we've reached the end of today's live session. If you didn't get your questions answered, join our Telegram group, which is posted in the chat, and you can continue to ask your questions there. You can also join our Saturday class and ask your questions. You can, of course, tune in next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, and ask your questions. You could even video yourself asking 3 of your most urgent questions and uploading those to osm.wetransfer.com. Sorry, I did that the last time. It's OSM Vision, the full title. osmvision.wetransfer.com. All right, so we can answer those questions for you. Yeah, once again, we want to thank and appreciate, love all of you for your donations, for your participation. And please do share, like, subscribe, and comment on all the videos, because that helps us. The algorithm helps us to reach more people. We are in the day and time where all truth must be known. And so you're helping us by something as simple as, you know, sharing the videos, commenting, liking, subscribing. All right. So until next week, same time, I'm Saken Wadu. Freedom for the Master Teacher. Partner Bab Yanun.